Good afternoon. Welcome to the 35th Annual Vancouver International Film Festival and this on-topic conversation discussion with the cast and crew of Milton Secret on the subject of bullying. We thank you for joining us. We also want to thank everyone who makes it possible to bring the films, bring the filmmakers, bring the creators to the festival. This includes our major supporters, TELUS, Telefilm, and Creative BC. And just as importantly, we want to thank the staff and the volunteers that make this festival possible. I hope that some of you had a chance to see Milton Secret last night, and if you did, you probably know that it's, as is every film at the festival, eligible for the Super Channel People's Choice Award. So when you see more films at the festival, be sure to vote for them. Those audience awards really help the films, help the creators get their work out there, and it's really simple to do. Pick between 5 and 1 for your rating for the film, tear it, put it in the ballot box, and wish these films well as they continue in their life. This year, we're doing a lot of new things around here at the Film Center as well, transforming it into this hub space. So hopefully you come out to more of these creator talks, come out in the evenings for the music and live visuals that we have going on. Come and see some of the VR stuff that's going on next week. So encourage you to do that. But with no further ado, we want to get to the subject at hand. And if we can have our moderator and guests join us up front, and I will introduce them. First of all, we have Carolyn Tuckwell. She is the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of South Coast, BC. Carolyn's career has been guided by a passion for children and working to ensure that every child has the opportunity they deserve to have the best outcomes in life. Thank you very much, Carolyn, for joining us. William Ainscough is next. William plays Milton in the film. William has kind of made a quick rise in his aspirations to be an actor. Was nominated for Best Newcomer for the ACTRA UBCP Award for his work on Seed, and turns in an excellent performance in Milton Secret. So we thank William for being there. Playing opposite him in the film is Hayes Welford. Hayes. You people don't just go to film festivals, we go to Blockbuster Films. You probably recognize him from the summer blockbuster Independence Day Resurgence. And I personally programmed Cop Car last year, so this guy turns in a killer performance in that film. So good work in Cop Car. Our next guest, Mia Kirshner, it will be familiar to many of you from her work on the L Word, many great film roles. In addition to that, it warrants mention that Mia is also the author of the book, I Live Here. I Live Here is an award-winning book detailing the hidden lives of displaced women and children around the world. Mia Kirshner. And finally, Barnett Bain is the director of Milton Secret. Barnett's credits also include the Oscar winner What Dreams May Come, and through his creativity workshops, Barnett guides people of all ages and walks of life to expand their vision of what is possible and develop their gifts and talent with passion. So we thank all of our guests for joining us, and I now hand it off to Carolyn for the remainder of the discussion.
Thanks so much. It's great to see so many people out today. It's certainly an honor for me to be here. I thought that perhaps, Barnett, you could start us off with sharing what it is that inspired you to really commit to making sure this film came to be.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Well, these are really tough times. It's chaotic. It's uncertain. I remember as a boy, I don't remember my parents having the kinds of conversations that we hear these days. My dad went through his entire adult life in the same job. My mom was a housewife and never had a job. Now, it's a very different landscape. We don't have this straight line anymore in any area. So the only thing that is certain is uncertainty. And we have been attempting for forever to meet uncertainty with the same strategies that we brought to a time when life seemed to play out in predictable ways. And so there is such chaos, and there's just such a sense of fear and confusion. And people are increasingly disconnected from themselves and from those around them, from their loved ones and from their communities. And we have more and more distractions to take us away from what really matters. And so when I saw the galleys to the book by Eckhart Tolle, I thought, well, this is really an amazing, amazing platform on the shoulders of which I could build out a story about families. But I wanted to observe families in a real way for where they're really operating. About families in uncertain times and how families cope with the stresses of uncertain times. So that's what led me to it, and hopefully most of you have seen the results of it.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think what part of what resonated with me, probably because of the work that I do at the Boys and Girls Clubs, our purpose is really so much more than just programs and activities, but really actually seeing and hearing kids, and through that, delivering that sense of belonging and meaning and that sense that they matter. So I think, Mia, your performance was so powerful in showing how the chaos really can keep parents from being able to see and hear their kids. Can you share maybe some of the experiences that you've had that made this movie so important to you?
Well, when I was in school, there were no resources when you were being bullied. There was no one to talk to. There were no the best of my knowledge, I had never heard of a boys or girls club in Toronto at that time. The teachers sort of took a back seat, and you were just told to suck it up and deal with it on your own. And I think when you're a kid, you know, it's not considered acceptable to cry in front of your classmates, to express emotion. It's more like you have to conform into this fabric of the school that's sort of preordained by, I guess, the leader. There's like this pecking order with bullies, I guess. And I really, really struggled at school from about 6 to 12. And that's what I love about the film, is it's you know, I didn't find the serenity that Milton found. I wish that I had had people and empathetic ears to speak to at the time. But I think it's a very powerful message in the film to try to find the tools to navigate through difficult times.
And would you be prepared to share how some of those experiences have channeled some of your
Sure.
how you're spending time outside of
Well,
the movie?
I think first and foremost, I mean, I discovered my love of acting. I think I found that I was so upset at school. Like, you know, I know a lot of actors say they were bullied and picked on, but I really, really was. People would move their desks away. I would get these prank calls at night. People would, you know, my parents would give me lunches with sprats and avocado, and they would be called rude words, you know, and people, like, I was considered the dirty kid at school, and it was horrendous. I discovered acting because it was an appropriate way of expressing emotion, and I discovered a love, I think, a protection of the outsider, which informed my life and the other work that I do. And I think ultimately I'm so grateful for this time, because my parents were such strong advocates of mine, and I had some teachers in my life who encouraged me to be an original and screw the people who didn't like me. And I think that's why I became successful because of these experiences. I think it creates art when you're kind of an outsider and on the fringes, and I think it gave me a lot of empathy, so I'm grateful for what happened. So
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Barnett, I learned a new framework this morning when we were chatting, the concept of hand-me-down thoughts. And I think in our work in bullying and anti-bullying, we so often run into people who say, well, it's just a rite of passage. It's you just have to suck it up. And I think this movie is a powerful tool to help us to actually embrace the fact that just because something happened to us doesn't mean it's okay. It doesn't mean we shouldn't all work together to change that future for others. I want to move to William and Hayes. And I'm sure that in school and with your parents and in other places you are you're talking about bullying. And of course, in that triad, the bully, the victim, and the bystander are all harmed. And I wondered if you would each in turn share whether you've had any experience with that yourself and what you learned about yourself from that. Hey.
I guess I'll go first. Yeah, I have had experience with bullying, and it's not pleasant at all. And, like, makes you feel horrible about yourself. I mean, like, okay, so the way I was I was bullied at elementary school. I'm not bullied now, or well, the future unwinds, I guess. But in the past, in elementary school, I believe 3rd grade to 5th grade, yeah, I was bullied really hard, and I didn't come out about it like until 5th grade. So that was a whole 2 years without it, and it's really hard. And the thing about bullying is it makes you feel so low, and I think it was because it made me so low, I didn't have the guts to come up and say anything about it. But, that's why parents exist, I guess. So,
Was that the turning point for you, your parents?
Yeah, that was the turning point for me. That's why I really liked 5th grade.
Nice. And William?
Well, I think from in the first couple weeks of 1st grade, I switched schools. I moved to a new school, and it was really hard for me to fit in. And I tried to meet new people, make some friends. It went okay for the first couple weeks, and it went okay through grade 1, and I made a really good friend. But it turned out that in grade 2, it didn't really go that way. It turned out that he was saying things about me, really mean things behind my back, and I didn't really say something until about 2 or 3 weeks after it started happening. And those 2 or 3 weeks were really hard because I had to sit by myself and didn't really have anyone to hang out with. So until I told my parents, and I guess that's where it all turned. And still, it happened through grade 3 and took that long to figure out, even though my parents knew. It went all the way until the middle of grade 3. So that was pretty difficult.
And what do you think you would do differently now?
I would have told him about it and said, stop, this isn't cool. I don't like this. And I would have told a teacher, but at the time, I guess I was just a lot more shy and I didn't talk to as many people. And I would just be more outgoing and talk.
That's great. Okay. What about you, Barnett? Do you have an experience yourself in the...
I have them every day.
Please
All
share.
day. And I'm not being facetious. We're familiar with bullying as an act of violence, either physical or emotional, lots of shaming. It's mostly about shaming. But long before it erupts in that physical way that we all recognize. It originates with the bullying self-talk that goes on inside of each and every one of us. I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I'm not important enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not Canadian enough, I'm not American enough, I don't fit in. All of these measurements where we come up short. And we train ourselves, and we are trained by, you mentioned before, the hand-me-down thinking. There's an environment that we exist in, each and every one of us. We are raised in families, and as we pointed out in the movie, this is a loving family. The parents are doing their best with what they're aware of. They're not aware that they're constant inattention, that the multitasking, that the constant relationship to the devices and the worry and the rumination, they are not aware that it creates an environment in which they are experiencing themselves as being bullied by life. And if you bake a child in an environment where you are bullied by life, your child will learn how to be bullied by life. It may not show up in exactly the same way, but it will show up. So under the roof of our family, it shows up by Milton, even though his mom says, you know we care about you the most, don't you? But he doesn't really know that. He'd like to think it, but he doesn't really know it because it's not really true. That's a hard one to swallow. Next door, there's a similar thing going on. So in this house, we have someone that's trained to feel like a victim. And in the next house, we have someone that's trained to compensate for feeling like a victim by being a victimizer. And then there's the whole range of behaviors in between. But it does start first with our internal self-talk. How were we trained? By our families, by our schools, by our religious structures, by our community values, by what we see on television, by what we see in our political campaigns. Look at the discourse. It's just crazy making, right? This passes for normal. This has become normalized behavior. Shaming talk at every turn. Entitlement talk on the other side. This passes for normal. And so we have a culture that trains us to feel inadequate. And there are various ways that we compensate for that. And the movie is really about identifying that and modeling certain kinds of behaviors where Milton suddenly becomes aware of that. Oh, he's suddenly watching and listening to the thoughts that go through and experiencing the feelings that go through. And eventually, at the end of the movie, not only is he watching and listening, he's responding. He comes out and he says, this is not a dangerous situation. Shh. So he's now self-caring. Because we are not in environments where we are trained to think you matter for who you are, not what you do. We're not in environments where we experience in the averages of things. I'm here for you. I will take care of you. I'm the parent. You're the child. You don't have to be preoccupied with making me feel good. We're not in those kinds of environments. So these are all of, this is the martini that I'm interested in, that we were interested in as a team. In serving up, we don't have solutions necessarily. We have some ideas. We don't have solutions, but this is what we just wanted to put on the table for people. I've said a lot. Let me bring it over to you.
Maybe, would you share what it was like to film the movie?
Well, I mean, if just from the little bit you've heard of Barnett speaking, there's so much that I learned from Barnett. I mean, it's just, the way sets are like when you'd film a movie, it's like going to war. Sometimes that's the way it felt before, whereas it wasn't like that with you. It was very much a very peaceful place about being seen and being heard, and everybody had something valuable to say. You never once lost your temper. You were always had a smile on your face. You had a sense of humor about yourself and the process. And I think that created a very safe environment. And I wish more experiences were like that, because I don't think I'll ever have that experience again. Barnett is a very special man. And these guys, I mean, you just such good actors, and also, most importantly, a life outside of acting. Because I think, I think when your life is just acting, it creates a small life. And I was so happy to hear that you both have such a rich life outside of your work. And I think your work speaks to that and the strong performances.
So William, what? Oh, yes, applause. I don't want to stand in the way of that. William, maybe would you talk to us a little bit about, the movie is about a very serious, very important topic. And I think I understood it was about a month of filming in the process. So how do you think that has all changed you? How has it influenced you?
The filming, being on set, it wasn't just the experience of being on set, it was also meeting all the other people too. This cast was just so amazing, so diverse, filled with people who are just amazing. It was just such a great feeling. And the cast and crew kind of felt after a while like a family. I mean, it always is a good feeling when the cast and crew can come together and they have this tight bond and they can make something really special.
That's great. And how was it for you to play a victim of bullying?
It was, I found, oh wow. As I said before, I have been a victim of bullying, and this kind of brings me back to that place, making me think of what happened before. And it was a bit difficult to take at first, but then, I mean, thinking about it in the end and just having to play this role and growing as a character throughout the whole movie was really fun. And I thought, this is just one of these characters that I might never get to play again. So this was a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
That's great. Hayes, what about you? How do you think that the experience of participating in this movie, the content of it, how do you feel about that?
I feel like I've come more far as a person after I did this. I think I've become more peaceful, actually. More independent, I guess. Taking care of myself, knowing to when reassure myself, So yeah. Thanks, Barnett.
And how did you feel about playing the role of the bystander in that bullying experience?
Like Will said, it's hard if you have like experience of this trauma, if that's what you want to call it. But I think at the end of the day, I said to myself, it's a hard job. Someone's got to do it. So that's it.
That's the spirit. Well, I think you two will both emerge as role models for a whole generation of kids. I think most kids can relate to this. If you were going to give kids advice about bullying, regardless of which role they're playing, what do you think you would tell them?
Just say something about it as fast as you can. Let someone know. And even if bystander or victim, that applies. And also, if it's really tough, if you feel like you're under extreme stress, breathe. You need to take a breath, regain yourself, and then figure out what's going on.
Awesome. And what about you, Hayes? Do you have some advice for kids out there?
He stole what I was going to say.
Oh, that's it. Mic drop. Okay, got it. Okay. Maybe one more question for both of you before we go back to Mia and Barnett. Did this movie change how you think about bullies?
Extremely. Before, I thought that bullies were just bullies and they did this to get personal enjoyment. But now seeing the other side of the story is very interesting, because bullies are usually made from bullying. They have bullying in their personal life or anywhere else, and it's just seeing what they have to go through seems like if the bully and the victim can find a way to cooperate and stop this fight, then the whole situation could be resolved. It could be.
And no matter how mean they are, bullies are humans. And I don't think you can really judge a person until you've walked a mile in their shoes and realized what they're going through at the same time. Yeah.
That's great. So Mia, it sounds like the experience you had with your parents is a contrast to the relationship between you and Donald's character. Can you talk about how you found your way to portraying it so powerfully?
Well, I mean, this guy, working with him, it was easy. I'd never played, I'd never had a son in a movie. I've had kids in films, but not an actual on-screen relationship. So but it was very easy because you're such a good actor. And I felt protective because I started when I was 14. So I felt protective of the experience you were going to have. And I think that sort of fed into how I related to the character. And yeah.
That's great. So Barnett, you talked to me a little bit this morning about your philosophy around the messaging and the potential power of possibility of what this movie can do. Would you be prepared to share that with?
I don't remember what we said, but I'll bet it was good.
It was perfect. Maybe the philosophy of the delivery
Wow.
of the message.
I'm not really sure what the philosophy was in a soundbite, but I can say that we can talk about these issues, and there's value to that. And there are teachers afoot, plenty, and there's value to that. And we can read about it in books, and there's value to that. But the heavy lifting happens when we're exposed to it, when we have the benefit of someone that is operating from a slightly expanded worldview. And we can see how it works. We take that in instantly. We just take it in like a sponge. Now, very few of us have access to those kinds of people. But in the movies, well, suddenly we do have access. You can't you can't tell a story, whether it's a joke or a dinner table conversation or a work of fiction or a movie. There is no such thing as a communication that doesn't have an agenda. Now, people push back if they feel they're being preached to. But believe me, they're always being preached to. If it's done with finesse, you take it in as receiving an act of generosity. But you're always being preached to. Stories are powerful only because they exist. And if that wasn't the case, we would not have an entire culture in the West that thinks they're only as good as the brand of tennis shoes they wear or the car they drive. And so my philosophy is simply to share what matters to me, to share it in a way that helps me understand it a little bit more and live it a little more fully, and in a way that clears out as much of the clutter as possible that stands between others' experience of themselves and who they can be, in a way that just doesn't feel like a soapbox. That's the philosophy. I want to share one other point to what has been said about the relationship between Mia's character and William's character. This kind of legacy, the way families pass on certain themes, multi-generational themes, that show up as internal bullying self-talk. So there is a scene that I cut out of the movie because I shot it really poorly, but it broke my heart to take it out. So I'm going to share it with you now. We're not going to act it out, but I'm tempted. Mia is sitting with her dad, and she is expressing her resentment and disappointment, which is still very alive from the time she was this big. She's talking, remember the scene? She's talking about her father was always at war, hadn't missed a war since he was old enough to enlist. Never home. And she's expressing her feeling of being abandoned. And suddenly, the penny drops. And she realizes that her father was absent on the other side of the world. But she abandoned her son, not to a war on the other side of the world, but to an internal war that she wages every moment of every day. I should have, I could have, I would have, if only, what if? The devices and the workaholism, we nobilize that in our culture. If you treat yourself as an object, you will treat other people as an object too. So the workaholism. And meanwhile, the boy is not on the other side of the world. He's upstairs, abandoned. And in the scene, she realizes that. And it's a breathtaking moment. As I said, unfortunately, I shot everything leading up to the breathtaking moment poorly, and so it was unusable. But you get the point, I hope. These themes are passed on, and when we can suddenly have clarity, recognize how we are operating, then and only then do we have the possibility of making a change. But if we don't see it, then all the changes are cosmetic. It's all just paint.
Thank you. So Hayes, I'm going to start with you. We'll let you go first on this one. If you were in charge of the world, what's the big thing that would happen as a result of this movie?
If I controlled the world, could I could I make people, could I make their thoughts and minds? Yep. Okay. This is deep. Yeah, I think I would make everyone, I don't think I would make people judge everyone. I think I'd like to make everybody equality for all in their mind. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would do, yeah.
That's great. Thank you. William?
Well, this is just such an interesting question because what would you do? If I was to have a person think one thing, if I could change one thing in everyone, is to actually see and actually think about what is happening in their lives. We can't just look at people and assume that this is happening to them and they're doing this because of this. As an original saying goes, you can't judge a book by its cover.
That's great. Mia, what are you hoping for?
Where do I start? I guess in the context of this discussion and this film on bullying, I think that to have more resources in place for kids to be able to, that are free. Because the fact of the matter is that, I was saying this to you earlier, in Canada with my peers, it's outrageously expensive to have any form of after-school care, daycare, camps. If you don't have this, you feel like, because I didn't have it, and you feel like you're on the outside. And I think expression for kids, especially who are in strife, are incredibly important. Because I think that's where great art comes from. And I think to have teachers and mentors who can help these kids are incredibly important. So I guess, I mean, to say it simply, more resources in place, mandatory free resources in place in Canada for kids to express themselves creatively, art-based programs, and a venue to show these programs, not just in their school, and therapy, because I think therapy is something that's underfunded in Canada, and you don't have access to it unless you have a lot of money. And that's unacceptable because most Canadians struggle with some form of mental health issue. Kids especially, this has to be mandatory in school. You can't, the fact of the matter is that it's not right that you can only have access to this stuff if you're rich. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm grateful that this film exists, because hopefully this film will become a tool to help kids feel seen and heard. I hope that a curriculum is built on this so kids don't have to go through what I went through because there were no resources. So yeah, it's not a simple answer, but those are my suggestions.
It's a good wish. Barnett? Before we go to the question and answer, do you have a
Well, the
big
movie
wish?
is really, we wanted to pull back the veils that cover up all of the conditioned behaviors and habituated ideas and thoughts and feelings and choices and beliefs that get baked in to individuals and to families and to systems. It's a movie really about systems. And so all of that, another way of saying that, it's an overly used word, and so I don't like to use the word, but I'm going to use it here. It's about consciousness. It's about becoming more and more aware of what is going on in ourselves and others below the surface of things, to become more conscious. We become more conscious of ourselves. Compassion arises, understanding arises, and things change. So I'm in it for the consciousness game.
That's great. Okay, so I understand that we have some staff amongst us who are going to help to bring mics where there are questions. And we'd like to open it up to you now. So I see someone in the back.
Thanks for this movie. I really want to see it. I have a date with a turkey on the next screening because it's Thanksgiving here in Canada. And so my question is, after thank you, just deep bow to all of you for your involvement. My question is, what's next for this movie, particularly in Vancouver? Is there a theater run scheduled? And also, can I buy 10 videos and give them to at least 10 people? Thank you.
Well, are you in luck? because our producer, Stephen Huzar, is in the house, and I'd like him to field that. Would you, Stephen?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks so much. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks for the question. Yes, absolutely. First question is, where is it? It's in the theaters right now in Vancouver at Park Theatre, Cineplex Park. I think it just opened up yesterday, I believe. So please tell all your friends in Vancouver. Also, it's in Calgary. We are in Toronto, Ottawa, Halifax, in Cineplex in Canada. It just opened up yesterday. So there's select Cineplex theaters. And there's also in the US, there's 10 major cities right now. So this is our beginning, our theatrical run. So for all the information on our film, please visit our website. It's all there in terms of where to see the film. It's miltonsecret.com. Pretty easy to remember. Your second question of where to buy the film, that is also available on our website. So if you just go to miltonsecret.com, you can rent it, you can buy it. And if you're really interested in sharing the film in your community, and you want to get people together, let's say in your house or gymnasium or yoga studio or wherever, we also have a platform where you can invite or actually host a screening wherever you'd like, and you can actually place it on a map in Canada or North America, and then people can go and actually join that screening. So I encourage you all to just visit our website and help join the movement, we say, and spread the message. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I just, I forget where I heard about this yesterday, and I thought, wow. But then one of the things it said in the blurb or whatever I read, it said this, and in fact I quickly read the book. I went to a bookstore and read the book, and it mentions this mindfulness where you go into the now and there's a light there and so on. Sounds good, but you know, one thing doesn't do it, whether it's showing films around or it seems to me that any problem is very complex, and you're not going to give a kid, anybody, a magic bullet like you do mindfulness. And I guess my question is, to the boys in particular, maybe, can young people do this? Can they just say, oh, I'm in the now, I've got a light inside me, the past is not real in a sense, and the future isn't? Would that work? Would that provide solace? Would you be able to protect yourself from all the hurt you're suffering?
Well, from my view, I would think that kids can respond to this message a lot easier than adults can. Adults are so caught up in work and so caught up in their personal life as well, so they can hardly manage it. But kids, they have to focus on school is one thing, but otherwise, there's nothing else to focus on. So they don't have to look into the past and look what happened yesterday, or they don't have to think about what's going to happen tomorrow. So they can just respond to this message a whole lot better and a whole lot easier.
I want to add something to that, if I may. It is a muscle that we develop. And to the degree that we can dial back a let's call this what this is. This is neurotic behavior. It's systemic. It's no less neurotic. So if we can dial back the neurosis a click, we're all to the better. So it is not about, we're not sitting here being prescriptive, and well, we are, but we're not saying this is a silver bullet. We are saying it's developmental. Anybody that feels drawn to or inspired to apply whatever insights they gain from this experience, from this story to their lives, for whatever reason, at whatever measure, great. But we don't pretend that people are going to walk out here all zen, nor do we necessarily think that that's the ideal situation. All we want to do as storytellers is just ratchet back the dissonance and to encourage people to become aware that they are not their thoughts and they are not their feelings. That all by itself is a game changer. Is that helpful at all? Thank you.
As you know, I absolutely love the movie, and to the point that the gentleman is making, as an academic and researcher, the amount of research and evidence that is building in this area that is showing profound results, where we can't get these kind of results from the next prescription we're prescribing to people, by, you know, even cognitive behavioral therapies, which are fabulous, have a lot of impact. But there is something profound that is happening here where even mainstream medicine is really starting to listen to this. I talk to healthcare providers all the time. I talk to surgeons. I talk to trauma teams. And they're starting to get this because the rates of stress in our society are right through the roof, as you had commented on, Barnett. And we have some concrete strategies which we can incorporate along with other things that we're doing that can make a profound difference. And I really believe that this movie is going to be one of those tools that so many people will be able to access, young, old, you name it. And it's already being implemented in many schools, and it's really having a profound impact. So applaud to having this out there in the world.
Is this live? This brought up a lot of things for me. One of the things was when I was a kid, I was a bully, and a lot of people, I think, pretend that that aspect of it doesn't exist, and I enjoyed it, and it was because my friends did it, and I was part of what they were, and it was good. You know, it felt good. But what I wanted to ask you about the movie was, as you made it, this particular movie, did you change your approach? Did anything change for you as you explored filming this? And for the actors, if something didn't resonate for you, how as an actor do you deal with that if you're asked to do something that maybe doesn't make sense to you?
Oh, okay. What was the question again? Sorry, I wasn't expecting.
You're asked to perform something that it doesn't resonate with you, or it doesn't fit into your experience, or maybe you even disagree with it. How do you handle that as an actor?
Well, it was Barnett's vision, and I guess in a way, I was thinking, because for me, I experienced bullying a very different way than what happens in the movie, but I think I had to bring myself down to reality and say, you know, this isn't your film, this is Barnett's film, so you gotta do what they want, gotta do what's on there, and even if you don't think it's gonna help, it will help a lot. So.
I don't know. It changes every film that you do changes. But I think it's you said it very well. Whatever is on the page, you as an actor have to serve the page. And I think the older you get, I found that you have the luxury of a technical skill that maybe didn't exist when I started acting as a kid. So, you know, I guess relying on technical stuff if something didn't resonate. But in terms of the character, a lot of the stuff that she was going through, the character resonated. And most importantly, you were able to explain things in a coherent way and in an accessible way, which makes it easier to access emotions.
You can't ask an actor to go someplace that you haven't personally investigated. You can't say, go north and let me know what's up there. So, there has been a trail blazed. And if an actor has difficulty following the trail, then it means I haven't blazed the trail effectively. There were times when I abandoned a trail. I hadn't effectively been there myself such that I could communicate it. So you lose it. You go somewhere else. But you know that you're going in a direction, and if my reach exceeds my grasp and it falls away, then I pick it up where I can catch it and hold it. And if I can really catch it and hold it, they can catch it and hold it. And if they can't, then it was never mine to begin with. So it's a dance. It's a cha-cha-cha. Does that help? I don't know if that answered all your questions.
This particular movie, did it go as you expected, or was it?
It went as I expected for the first time in my life.
Okay, we have another question.
So I'm a parent, and my girls absolutely love the movie. And they said two things. Fortunately, I haven't had to live the same experience, but that's exactly what happens at school. My question would be around, as a parent or my children, we've opened the conversation about a really important topic, but what's next? Is there anything else that's going to come out and provide me with more resources, or my school for more resources around the topic?
You in luck, because we just happen to have our producer here, Stephen Huzar.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the question. Yes, there is. I think we answered a little bit yesterday at our screening. But we do have extended teachings that are going to be coming out. We do have a curriculum that's being built around this. So if you, again, just please go back to our website, miltonsecret.com. We're really pushing the film. We're focusing on the film, the release in North America. It will be released internationally. I didn't say that last time, by the way. We're just, right now, because of our distribution deals, we only have a North America distribution at the moment, but it will go international soon. But in the next few weeks, you're going to be seeing extended content coming out, and specifically for the schools that we can integrate into the program. So thanks for the question, Tammy. Okay. Yes.
Hi, guys. I just got the microphone. There you are. I'm Irish, and I just wanted to comment and share. My brother was bullied in school badly. The kids used to hiss at him, which I think is a really cruel form of bullying. And I believe that led to him being an over-cautious person, which led to later in life him taking Lariam when he was in Brazil, which had an adverse effect on his psychology. So he went into therapy and all the rest. But I think it stemmed from the bullying. It began there. And he discovered mindfulness, and then the rest of the family discovered mindfulness. So I don't know, I just feel incredibly lucky that I bumped into this form of relaxation. Just to be aware of what you're doing, how you're feeling, and that you're not your thoughts and your feelings. And to get to that place, to be able to get to that place, to know that it's always there, is just so profound. And I'm going to share the movie as much as I can. So thanks for that.
So I've been given the T sign, which I believe means "and that's enough." So what a privilege to hear from each of you about your experiences, your vision, your hopes for impact from this film. I know from my perspective, the film is incredibly powerful, and I think it will be a tool that that carries this message forward, both in terms of the importance of the relationships in your life and being in them and seeing them in whatever direction they are. And the simple truth that, in fact, when we hurt each other through our behavior and we actually are brave enough to have the conversation about it, we can actually get to a place where we have our needs met without harming others. So thank you for sharing that, for your commitment to taking it forward, and for sharing all your thoughts with all of us today.
And thank you to the audience for coming.